Valentine's bouquets come in all shapes and prices, but how do you know which one's best when there's so many out there to choose from? Well, it's simple. 1-800-Flowers.com is your Valentine's go-to. Right now, when you order early, you can get 24 multicolored roses for only $29.99. Or upgrade to 24 romantic red roses for only $10 more. It's an unbelievable Valentine's offer from 1-800-Flowers. 24 multicolored roses for just $29.99. Or upgrade to red roses for only $10 more. Roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak, shipped overnight to ensure freshness and her amazement. 24 multicolored roses for only $29.99 or an upgrade to 24 red roses for just $10 more is the perfect reward for thinking ahead. Look, make sure you lock in this offer. It's only good while supplies last. To order 24 multicolored roses for $29.99 or upgrade to 24 red roses for only $10 more, go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click on the radio icon, and enter the code WINGO. That's 1-800-Flowers.com and enter code WINGO. Order today at 1-800-Flowers.com, code WINGO.
I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt, so pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too, and an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard. Popcorn kernels.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Golick and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up a little later on today, Todd McShay will join us. He's got his latest mock draft out.
Yes, he does.
As we sort of begin the transition from the end of the season to what I call the player procurement season.
There you go. And we're going to get into that draft in just a little bit with Todd, obviously, when he's here, but just shortly as we're allowed to start talking about it now.
Yeah, see, I think there's no off season in the NFL. I think there's really four. It's divided into four parts. We're right now in the first part, which is the player procurement season, which is the combine, pro days, the draft, and free agency. And then you have the preseason, right? Which is, OTAs, mini camps, training camps, and all of that. Then there's the regular season, and then there's the postseason. So to me, there's really no off season. No off season, and we talk about it a lot. Except for last off season, the NBA really took charge. Absolutely,
and this off season, the NBA is going to be special again. So certainly helps our cause.
Yes, it does. The NBA and this off season for the NFL, the player procurement era is going to be great because of all the quarterbacks that'll be available. Right. So that'll be very interesting going forward. We got a lot to get to, and we'll get into my top 5 stories for the NFL offseason or the player procurement season as we begin. But first, let's start with what's trending. And it's bad news for Gronk. He's had a bad couple of days, Mike. They lost the Super Bowl, not because of him. No. He was the difference maker in the second half. He really was for the New England Patriots after only one catch for 9 yards in the first half against the Eagles. But police have confirmed a break-in at the home of the Patriots tight end in Foxborough, Massachusetts, according to multiple reports.
Yeah, well, they certainly knew he wasn't going to be there. He was going to be somewhere else. Yeah. So the police got there about 6 o'clock, and they were there most of the night going over it. So, that's a shame. The burglars know exactly when people that are on a schedule like that are home and not home and what they're doing, and marked his house. And I didn't hear all the stuff they might have gotten away with or stolen. I don't know if that's been out yet.
Let's see what we got. There were items stolen. We're not going to release the nature of those items stolen. This is from the one of the policemen there, Foxborough chief of police.
I know he lives close to the stadium.
Very close to the stadium. Yeah. Obviously, the people who committed the theft know what was stolen. It's an investigative advantage for us to know that as well. We'll not share it with the public. I will not have any further comments on that time.
All right.
Man, leave Gronk alone. What did he ever do to you?
Come on now.
All he's done is put his body on the line for you guys, and you guys going to rip him off?
Well, seems so.
That's just wrong. Staying with what's trending, the Pistons beat the Blazers 111-91 to remain undefeated since trading for Blake Griffin. That's a 4-game winning streak. And, Mike, they're back at 500 and now tied with the Sixers for the 8th and final playoff spot in the East.
We talked about this earlier, and even when the trade was made, about where Detroit can go, what will be their ceiling. As I said, everybody wants to win the title, and I know that's their goal, but what's the more realistic goal is getting a name player like Blake Griffin, putting some butts in the seats, and where can you get as far as the conference is concerned, and where would you be happy to get? And I've had a few people tweeting me, watch out, Detroit is an up-and-coming city, and they're going to make a move. I don't know. Do you think free agents, big-time free agents, and I and I'm not saying this from the city side. I'm just saying it from the Detroit Pistons side of it as well. And you have to throw some of it as a city on where you're going to go. Do you believe that's going to be a destination for top free agents?
Well, look, I think it's possible, but there are some things going against it. I mean, there just are. You know, if you have the choice for going, when LeBron left, he didn't go to Detroit. He went to South Beach.
He went to South Beach. And again, we're talking about when you have a choice, because some are trades, that we saw happen. Now, some of these guys that were traded now will have a choice to go where they want to go, but others are trade. Like Jimmy Butler to Minnesota is a trade, that's a place where the thought is, boy, with Wiggins and Butler and Karl Anthony Towns, I mean, is that going to be? Are there going to be some free agents that look at that? That's what they were trying to get down in New Orleans. With Boogie Cousins and with Anthony Davis. Now, Cousins going down with the Achilles is obviously may not look as attractive, and thinking the rest of Boogie Cousins' career, how that can be coming back from that injury. But I'm talking about, just a free agent, a big-time free agent choosing, like Kevin Durant choosing Golden State. Are you going to get someone like that choosing to go to Detroit and say, yeah, we can overtake or be the top team in the East now? And that's because, as we said, when you get to max numbers, which is different than football. Numbers are, you're getting the same amount where you go. Right. So now you have to choose, am I going to a no-tax place? Am I going to a geography of where I want to be? Where does my family want to be? Where is this team's chance of winning a ring? There's a lot of things that are involved in it.
Look, what has been the issue with Cleveland? Okay, you have the best player in LeBron James, but can you recruit people there? Kyrie wanted to leave. Yeah. He was drafted there. Right. Some of that was because he wanted to be the man. I get that. But I think part of it was, hey, what's more attractive to me? And he felt Boston was a more attractive option. As for Blake, he signed through 2021. If they start to win, look, you know how this goes. If there's winning involved, that certainly changes things dramatically. But to the point about tax dollars, I mean, one of the biggest signings in the NFL this offseason was Calais Campbell. Right. He grew up basically in Denver, and he was trying to decide between Denver and Jacksonville. I think he made the right choice for a lot of reasons, but the lack of state income and income tax in Florida.
Keep a little more money.
Whatever money you're making, add it by about 30%. Yeah. And that's the difference. And sometimes, and people are like, how can you say that when you're making so much money? Because you know what's enough? More. Yeah. More is always enough. And if you can make more, I think that's going to be a big part of it. Look, if they can find a way to get people more jazzed about the Detroit franchise with Blake there and Andre Drummond, and maybe get a really good draft pick again while they're still there together, and they start winning will always tip the scale for a lot of reasons. Right. But you're right. There are some things that they're going to have to overcome. We love downtown Minneapolis when we were there for the Super Bowl, did we not?
Absolutely right.
But it was freaking cold.
It was cold.
It was very, very cold, and sometimes that's a selling point that they're going to have to get around. Can it work in Detroit? Yes, but there's some obstacles that they're going to have to get
in the Florida state tax, I think it's 6%.
Yeah. There is state tax in Florida? I thought it was no state income tax in Florida. There's no state income tax in Florida. Florida and Arizona.
So I'm sorry. So that's about what you're saving, right? I mean, what a state tax would be? That's what you say. Yeah. You said 30%.
Yeah, I was being generous.
There we go. Might save 6%.
I was told there would be no math on this show. Meanwhile, Hoops fans in New York City have some options tonight. Top two scorers in the NBA are in town. James Harden, who leads the NBA with over 31 points per game. And the Rockets will be taking on the Nets in Brooklyn at 7:30. But, Mike, that's not the only option they've got there.
No, it is not. This other game between the Bucks and the Knicks with Antetokounmpo and Porzingis. Antetokounmpo ranks second in the NBA with 77 contested dunks. And Porzingis has 9 blocked dunks this season, tied for the most in the NBA. Antetokounmpo has 7 of those blocks as well. So that will be interesting, as far as the dunks and going up to contest those dunks. And two players in the game today of where the game is going. These big guys, 6'11" and 7'3", who are good athletes and play away from the basket, as well as, boy, they're fun to watch around the rim as well.
And listen, we're talking about another destination city that might be interesting in the East. It might be Milwaukee. You've got Brogdon. You've got Antetokounmpo, and they just get Jabari Parker back from that ACL.
In Middleton, a lot of these guys haven't been on the court together.
They have a lot of interesting options for them, and they've actually won 6 of 7. So the firing of Jason Kidd seems to have worked on a short term anyway. I mean, but that's a team that has a lot of interesting things that you can build around.
I've asked you, look at some of these teams: New Orleans, say now Detroit, Minnesota, Milwaukee. Of those teams, which do you think would be able to attract a big-time free agent? going forward.
Well, I mean, just based on the city itself?
No. Based on the team. Obviously, the city is part of it, but based on the team, figuring out that a big-time free agent wants to go win somewhere, where would be that place? Where would be that destination place of where you think you can win somewhere? And these aren't the LAs and the New Yorks of the world, Milwaukee, Detroit, Minnesota. If you want to throw New Orleans, though, I think with Boogie Cousins being hurt now, that really hurts that situation.
That changes that.
So say Milwaukee, completely. Minnesota, Detroit.
Yeah.
Minnesota's the best team of those teams we're talking about right now, it would seem. So where would that big-time free agent want to go?
You're right. I think Milwaukee has the best team right now, but maybe the biggest upside is Milwaukee.
No, Minnesota has the best team.
Minnesota, yeah. I'm sorry.
And Milwaukee has the best upside.
I think Milwaukee has the potential to have the biggest upside with the roster they're building, and you have one of the great superstars in the game locked up for a while in Antetokounmpo. I mean, I think that one's going to be interesting because there's a lot of things that are already set up there, and you have things in place, and you have Brogdon on his rookie deal already.
Right.
I think that one's interesting. I
do as well. I do as well on how they build, and then what coach they're going to get next year as well.
Well, they again, it's nothing against Jason Kidd, but sometimes change is necessary, and they've won 6 of 7. Can they continue going forward and see what happens in the playoffs? That'll be determinant. But I really like what they're doing with the Bucks in Milwaukee. Okay, so that's what's going on in the NBA right now. Now they asked me for some homework.
Yes, they did. Before you go away, you had to do a little homework.
And they asked me for my top 5 storylines in the offseason going into 2018 in the NFL.
Okay.
So they dressed this up for television, so we're going to start. We have a big fancy thing here.
All right, good.
Treys Top 5 Offseason Storylines.
I love the fact they got you in his laugh.
You do his laugh really well.
I did it better before I was losing my voice, but you're right. All right, here is number 5.
Who exactly is Dak Prescott?
Only God knows, really.
And I think that's a big question
for
the Dallas
big question,
Cowboys.
yeah.
Look, obviously Dak was hurt a little bit by the loss of Zeke Elliott for 6 games. But if you look at the numbers, his rookie year, when he lit the world on fire and they were the number 1 seed, he had 23 touchdown passes against only 4 interceptions. This year he had 22 touchdown passes, 13 interceptions, Mike.
Right.
His yards per attempt went down from almost 8 per attempt to under 7. His completion percentage dipped from 68% to 63%. And I think a big part of this is, can they figure out what Dak does well and they can put the pieces in place around him?
Yeah, and the O-line was not what it was this year.
It wasn't.
As opposed to last year's, with Tyron Smith being hurt a lot at left tackle, you left guard, you playing a little bit of musical chairs for Jonathan Cooper, kind of took that spot over, but it was a position they had to fill. L. Collins, who was there last year, was out at right tackle, learning that position. So they went through a little bit of transition as well. So we'll see. We'll see where they go for in free agency in the draft. Did they get a speedy receiver? They still got work to do on defense as well, because the teams at running back and quarterback, they're obviously set. A lot of talk on Dez Bryant. I don't think Dez is going anywhere, but you have to wonder, do they pick up that fast and that speedy type receiver?
Well, Dez hasn't been that guy since 2014. Now, some of that's injuries, but you know what? When you play as physical as Dez does, those injuries tend to mount up pretty quickly.
Yep.
In 2014, he had 16 touchdown receptions, including one that should have counted in the playoffs but didn't, against the Packers in that divisional round game. But he hasn't been that guy in a couple of years. The Cowboys have to get faster Terrence Williams is not a fast receiver.
No.
Cole Beasley's not a fast receiver. They need more team speed, but they've got to figure out what Dak does well and build around him, because they made that commitment.
Yeah, they did.
As soon as they said, hey, we're in with Dak all the way, and that's why Tony Romo's in the booth now, as opposed to playing for the Dallas Cowboys. They need to figure out what Dak does well, work around him, and develop him into being the best quarterback he can be, because he took a little bit of a sophomore slump. They can't have him taking a third-year slump as well. He's got to be better, and they've got to get better around him. Because the Cowboys, over the last 5 years, Mike, are the only number 1 seed not to make it to the Super Bowl. 9 out of the 10 number 1 seeds the last 5 seasons have made it to the Super Bowl. The Cowboys were the only one that didn't, and they didn't win a single game when they had home field advantage in the NFC. So that was storyline number 5. Here is storyline number 4.
Of the 8 new playoff teams, how many are here to stay and how many were flashes in the pan?
There's people that think LeBron James sucks.
And look, you had the Jacksonville Jaguars make it. You had the Buffalo Bills make it.
Right.
The Rams made it. So you had all these. Now the Saints are a different story because they have Drew Brees and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Maybe they would have a 3-year absence. But we had 8 playoff teams make the postseason in 2017 that weren't there in 2016. Normally we get 5 or 4 in and out every year. So which one of these teams, of these 8 that made it back in, do we believe can be there for the long haul? I mean, for crying out loud, the Super Bowl champs, the Eagles, were one of those teams.
Yeah, I think Jacksonville could be one of those. Don't you? I mean,
I do.
We'll see what goes on with the quarterback position now. Yeah. Now with the whole Blake Bortles having the surgery and he's going to get that $19 million guarantee, what direction do they go? But I love how they're building and have built so far. And in that division, now you're going to get Andrew Luck back, so we'll see. But Andrew Luck, while he has struggled, he's had 0 around him.
Nothing.
And I don't know how quickly they can rebuild with that around him. So I think Jacksonville is a team that can stay. How about another? It's amazing. The 2 of the team, Jacksonville gets all the way to the AFC Championship game, and all the way to the NFC Championship game is Minnesota.
Yeah.
And they have the quarterback situation. What's going to happen there? Is Blake Bortles going to be the guy in Jacksonville? What happens in Minnesota? Is it going to be Case Keenum, Sam Bradford, which I don't think so, or Teddy Bridgewater they give the deal to? So those teams that we talk about have their situations at the quarterback position.
Number 1 defense in the NFL last year for the Vikings, and all 3 of their quarterbacks on expiring contracts, which is just so rare for a team that is good. Normally you have that situation when you want to reboot. There was a while, Arizona doesn't have a quarterback on their roster right now. There was a time when San Francisco didn't have a quarterback under contract last offseason on their roster. So usually when you look at a situation like that, it's for a team that struggled.
Right.
Minnesota did not struggle. They were a number 2 seed.
A team that I think could be there for a bit, and it might too be the makeup of the division. Seattle, their influx, right, with some of the defensive players, whether they're going to have back or not. Arizona Cardinals, they got to start over with a quarterback and such. They're going to be losing Larry Fitzgerald, whether it's now or in another year. And the San Francisco 49ers, I think, are on the way up.
Yep.
But how long will that take? So the Rams. I think the Rams with Goff, that O-line they rebuilt, the defense led by the defensive player of the year. By the way, your offensive player of the year, Todd Gurley,
and your coach of the year.
And your coach of the year as well. I think that's a team that's built to hang around for a bit.
So, again, we'll see how many of these can go. I'm with you. I like the Rams, and I like Jacksonville. There's Buffalo, but they've got issues at quarterback. And that leads me to offseason story number 3.
From free agency to trades to the draft class, the QB carousel goes round and round.
You like that?
It's going to be fascinating, Mike. We've never had an NFL offseason with so many quarterback questions and so many available that we believe are pretty talented at the quarterback position.
Well, you look at the draft, and, Cleveland needs a quarterback. The Giants will probably take one, but I'll get to touch on it in a second. Cleveland has the 1st and 4th pick. Denver looking for a quarterback. The Jets looking for a quarterback as well. So you look at the top 6 teams, and you're talking, 3 of those teams need a quarterback. So what happens in free agency first and or trades first before we even get to the draft? We'll get to Todd McShay's mock draft on who he has going number 1. Shock of all shocks, it's a quarterback. But that could all change if all of a sudden Cleveland, John Dorsey does not like, Joe Thomas sat in here and said, John Dorsey, the new GM, does not like playing rookie quarterbacks.
And they have a ton of money.
What veteran do they bring in? They tried to trade for Alex Smith.
Yep.
But Washington had the better deal by throwing in the player they did in the cornerback. So where do they go as far as, and even if they get a veteran, do they still draft one of these rookies to kind of prepare along the way? So free agency takes hold first in this, so that could change up the top of this draft.
Look, potentially we have 5 quarterbacks that could go in the first round of the draft, but where they go will be completely determined by what happens. The only thing we do know that it's done, but it's not done because it can't be done until March, is that Alex Smith is leaving Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes will take over. He's going to Washington. There's a story out there that Washington may try and put the franchise tag on Kirk Cousins one more time just to F with him more than anything else, but also to protect what they might get back in return.
Back for him. It's exactly right.
But by God, if you're not going to pay him, let him go.
Well, that's the thing.
And you just brought in the guy that's going to replace him.
So is Cousins going to one of those teams, Cleveland or Denver or New York, possibly? So, I mean, that's going to change the whole top of this draft if and when some of that happens.
And the other thing, too, is that some people still believe, even though Blake Bortles' wrist surgery pretty much guarantees his $19 million deal, hey, Mike Glennon's now a backup in Chicago.
For $16 million or whatever it is. Yeah.
So it's workable.
Yep.
It's workable. So Jacksonville may still be in play. NBA free agency is bananas every offseason.
Yeah.
This is going to be the closest thing to that because of the quarterbacks that are in play in the NFL's offseason. And now we get into offseason story number 2.
Is this the beginning of the end in New England?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, listen, the bottom line is it starts with the quarterback who, as we've talked about through this domination with the quarterback and the coach, name the Hall of Famers he's played with.
Randy Moss. And maybe somebody else.
I'm going to say Gronk.
Ty Law.
Gronk.
Ty Law probably get in.
But it's not, you can't start listing them off. You can list off the first couple, and then that's it. So what he's done, and in my eyes, he's got 2 more years, if that. So, yeah, I mean, it depends on what your definition of the beginning of the end. Next year, no, I think Belichick's back. I think Brady's back. I think Gronk is back. So they're going to replace their coordinators and possibly some position coaches as well. And we know the last time that happened, it was a 10-year span before they won
another Super Bowl.
Before they won another Super Bowl.
They went
correct.
to 2. And,
they did. So
42 and 46.
Still pretty nice. You still went there. So it depends on your definition of, is it the beginning of the end? I still think there's a couple of more years where this team can do something. By a couple more years, I mean as Brady's a quarterback.
Brady, to me, is the key because at some point, Mike, it's happening.
Oh, it's exactly
right.
At
some point, Father Time wins. That's the whole point of his documentary, Tom versus Time. He's the oldest quarterback to start in a Super Bowl. He's the oldest quarterback to set all kinds of records, but he will be 41. He'll be 41 in August. It's going to end. It catches up with everybody.
It will.
The question is, because he's not going to get better at 41. The question is, how long can he maintain? And he was the MVP. So if you can maintain that level for 2 more years, God bless you. That's great. But at some point, the decline is coming, and you have to wonder, will it be this next season? Or like you said, maybe 2 more years at 42, 43. Right. It's insane that we're even having this discussion.
It is. I agree.
He is rewriting the record book on so many levels. And that leads me to off-season story number 1.
Can the Eagles repeat?
Free Meek Mill. Free Meek Mill.
Free Meek Mill.
And when I say repeat, I don't even mean as Super Bowl champs. I mean as division champs.
Right.
Okay? Say what you want about the NFC East, but the only constant there is change. The last team to repeat as champs in the NFC East, you know what it is?
Who's that?
The Philadelphia Eagles, 2003 to 2004. Every year since 2005, a different team has gone on to win that division.
Who has the best shot to dethrone them?
I would probably say Dallas.
Yeah.
Because, the Giants, they got a lot of issues they got to work out. Washington is in sort of a reboot mode. Now, we'll see what Alex Smith can do if he plays like he did in Kansas City. I think you feel pretty good about that. If Sean Lee is healthy and can stay on the field,
which has been an if.
A huge if for them. The defense is good enough. And if you get the right weapons around Dak, and Zeke is there for 16 games.
My money is still on Philly, not only winning the division, but even getting back to the Super Bowl. Now, let's see when Carson Wentz comes back. He should be able to start to work in training camp. Will he be ready for game 1? If he's not, will Nick Foles still be there, or will Philadelphia be offered a king's ransom for him and take that? If Nick's there, then he can just fill the void until Carson is back. And we know they have most of their guys, 21 to 22 guys are under contract. So it's tough to, outside of some injury, but they had it this year. They lost one of the best tackles in the game, one of the best quarterbacks in the game, best special teamer in the game. I mean, my God. And they still ended up in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I'd say their chances can be pretty good, even though it's very hard to do.
This is why Howie Roseman won Executive of the Year. 21 of those 22 starters are locked in. Only Nigel Bradham is not locked and under contract for next season. Now, there may be some other issues going on there, but, they have depth. They got guys coming back. And I believe that Nick Foles isn't going anywhere for 2 reasons. One, we won't know until the summer where we are with Carson Wentz and his recovery, and you have the perfect guy to just stay in there and right the ship and win games for you. And their quarterback number combined against the cap is under 15 million. There are 18 starters in the league that have, or not even 18 starters, or 18 quarterbacks in the league that have a higher cap number than those 2 combined. It is an unbelievable luxury, and quite frankly, one they may need because they won't know until later on, well after free agency starts, where they are with Carson Wentz. We continue on Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via. Do you like via or via?
Via.
Via? All right, we'll go with via. Or vase or vase?
Vase.
Yeah.
Vase.
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 A vase.
Right. Well, via the Shell Pennzoil Performance line and get your all your 1-800-Flowers.com in a vase, according to Mike Golic.
Wingo or Tool?
Both.
Okay.
Pretty much, I think they're synonymous.
There you go.
They're the same thing, really.
Isn't that synonymous?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is in my household. By the way, if you on Twitter right now, our NFL on ESPN account just has the footage of the Lombardi Trophy landing in Philadelphia. LeGarrette Blount is very happy with it. It's pretty good. Obviously, the Eagles are feeling really good about things, as they should, having won Super Bowl 52, taking down the New England Patriots. But, Mike, you pointed that out to us yesterday, and we played it earlier in the show. We want to play it again. Center Jason Kelce, who had an unbelievable game.
Yes, he did.
Blocking all over the field, was really emotional after the win, and he sort of explained why he was so just drained and emotionally spent after the game. Take a listen to this.
I found myself in the shower crying, dreaming of this moment. You've worked so hard your whole life to get here. Everything culminates. And I can't help but think back to a quote my grandfather gave me from Calvin Coolidge about persistence. I'm not going to say it because it's a little long and it'll drag home, but he gave me that quote when I was 18 years old, when I was not given a scholarship to play at any Division I university. My father and mother told me to stay after my dream. And I've officially accomplished the best thing in this sport with a group of guys who mean the world to me.
Mike, I'm getting chills listening to that again.
Yeah.
It sums up everything about what it is to play a team sport and to be there with somebody, pulling somebody else, and realizing you're at the mountaintop. And for those that don't know, here's the entire quote from Calvin Coolidge, who was the 30th president of the United States. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, press on, has solved and will always solve the problems of the human race.
It's and I love hearing the people, once you hit the top of the mountain, how they do that, how they kind of look back. And everybody's road is different.
Yep.
Some roads are a lot straighter and cleaner than other roads, or the peaks and valleys and twists and turns that they take. But it's kind of how I always like the Hall of Fame speeches. I know about the person that's in the Hall of Fame and their stats, but tell me about your road.
Right.
Tell me what got you there and what you had to overcome. And Jason Kelce told you there some of the things he had to overcome. And then you get that culmination. It would have been so nice. My boys were so close to it, in the national title game in college, where there's only one team standing. In every sport, you get to a championship, there's one team standing. That means the other teams in playoffs, everybody, their last game was a loss. And then in the regular season, some of you weren't good enough to even get to the postseason. So only one team gets to finish that way. And then you get to kind of reminisce about not only your personal battle to get there, but also as a team, what you all went through. And with the Eagles, it was a lot of injuries to go through and whatever else they went through that we don't know about that goes on in that locker room, plus just the fact of all the time together. That's why the searching out of teammates and the hugs and the I love yous are really heartfelt, as this is what 32 teams, what almost 2,000 players strive to get to. And we as 53 guys, and add the practice players and add the coaches and add the equipment manager and the trainers and the ticket people and everybody else, we all as an organization, we are at the top of the mountain.
It's that old line from Bill Parcells when he's mic'd up and, sort of encouraging the Giants on the bench. This is why you lift all them weights. This is why you do this stuff.
Yep.
And to see it pay off and to hear the emotion in his voice. Look, we all get into sports because we either played it or we like watching it. But then you hear the stories, stuff like that. That's what keeps me going. 25 years into this, that stuff. I literally got chills hearing that for the second time this morning. It was just amazing. And that was just one story on the Eagles. Then there's the story of Nick Foles, left for dead basically in the NFL, was going to quit, had nothing left, wasn't going to do it anymore.
He decided to quit.
He decided he was going to walk away, then was talked back into it. And he addressed that. After he won the MVP, this is what he had to say about failure.
I think the big thing is don't be afraid to fail. I think, in our society today, Instagram, Twitter, it's a highlight reel. It's all the good things. And then when you look at it, you think like, wow, when you have a rough day or your life's not as good as that, like, you're failing. And I don't think, failure is part of life. That's a part of building character and growing. Like, without failure, who would you be? I wouldn't be up here if I hadn't fallen thousands of times, made mistakes. We all are human. We all have weaknesses. And I think throughout this, just being able to share that and be transparent. I know when I listen to people speak and they share their weaknesses, I'm listening because I can resonate. So I'm not perfect. I'm not Superman. Might be in the NFL and we might have just won the Super Bowl, but hey, we still have daily struggles. I still have daily struggles. So, but that's where my faith comes in. That's where my family comes in. And, I think when you look at a struggle in your life, just know that, that's just an opportunity for your character to grow. And that's really just been the message. Simple. Like, if something's going on in your life and you're struggling, embrace it because you're growing.
That's great, too.
Well, I mean, it's true in sports. It's true in life. I mean, you look at someone's character. When things are going well, that's easy to show good character. It's when things aren't. How do you step up then? What kind of person are you then? And then when you're preparing to do something, then you get to, I'm sure it could be in obviously all walks of life, but we're talking about sports here. When you want to make that your living, in whatever level you end up getting, high school, college, or you make the living in the pros doing it, you have to understand that no matter what position you play, at any point you could make the block or the play that decides it, or you could miss the block or the play or drop the ball or not throw it well enough in the opportune moment where all of a sudden the focus on you is you in a negative way. You have to accept both sides of that. The good from all the team stuff can come as well as the bad can come from. And you have to know that. And you go in every play, and quite honestly, I keep bringing it up, but I think in a team sport, I bring up John Hanna, the Hall of Fame guard from the New England Patriots when we had him on air years ago. This dude was about as rabid a nutcase player as could be on the field.
One of the best ever played.
And I asked him, how he did it, and he said out of fear. And I said, fear? I said, what's your fear? He said, fear is letting down the guy next to me.
Yeah.
He said, that's my biggest fear. I don't want to be that guy to let down the rest of my line or the team. But that's a possibility. When you're out there, you're playing to be the best, but you also know you could add that play where the spotlight's going to be on you. And then to Nick Foles' point, how then do you get up? How then do you react from that? How does Marcus Williams come back from that play against Minnesota where he got there early, ducked it, and all of a sudden there's Diggs running away and the game's over?
Right.
How does he now come back from that? That's the true test. That's not going to define me. I'm going to come back better than ever and not make that mistake again.
Yeah, and that's sort of that's the beauty and the pain of sports right there, is that you lay it all out there. And that's why I thought what Foles has said there is so important. What did you learn from that?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to fail. Everyone successful has failed 100 times more than they've been successful. And it's interesting when you said fear. Gary Zimmerman, offensive lineman, the only offensive lineman that was all decade of the 80s and all decade of the 90s. When he would line up next to Stink, our buddy Mark Schlereth, after every play and the huddle was called, he'd go to Mark, what's my assignment? What's my assignment? Yeah. He was so paranoid.
It's amazing,
it may be
isn't
an offensive lineman thing.
Oh, I think it's definitely an O-lineman thing.
He was so scared that he was going to screw it up.
Yep.
He was like, Stink, what's my assignment? What's my assignment?
Yep.
And Stink would have to, okay, well, on this play we do this and we do that.
Right.
Every single play. So even the best that have ever done it are dealing with that fear of failure almost on a daily basis, and that's okay.
Yeah,
just put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Dream big, kids.
There you go.
Dream
Life
big.
lessons.
That's the most important thing. Mike, I feel like we're getting very philosophical today. We had the Jason Kelsey thing, which I thought was great. It's amazing. I have never seen this Calvin Coolidge quote before. Had you seen it before?
Where would I see that?
There you go. Well, maybe in one of the comic books that you read.
That's just not funny at all. That's nothing cool about that.
I had not seen this before, so I thought it was great. So we played that a couple of times today.
Right.
And then, of course, we had the Nick Foles thing about failure. And it sort of translated for me into something that happened yesterday that has nothing to do with sports. So if you'll allow me a little platform here. John Mahoney passed away yesterday at the age of 77. Now, if you don't know who John Mahoney was by name, you probably know him if you saw his face. He was an actor.
Yep.
He was best known for playing Fraser Crane's dad for 11 years on the show Frasier. But John Mahoney's story is really fascinating. John Mahoney was born the 7th of 8 children in Blackpool, England, and went into business right out of his college or university years. did that for you. I think he was an insurance salesman. I literally believe he was an insurance salesman in Chicago. Chicago became his adopted hometown. He moved there. And at the age of 37, Mike, is when he first started acting.
That's something, isn't it?
At the age of 37. He had never done really anything. He had always had this itch to scratch. He was pretty successful.
Right.
He had made a living and was doing well. But at the age of 37, he said, you know what? Something burns inside of me, and I would be kidding myself and selling myself short if I didn't give it a shot. So he gave it a shot, and it turned out to be an amazing career. Look, most people know him from Frasier, but he was in many, many movies.
Oh, man.
Tin Men, a great Barry Levinson film about aluminum siding salesman with Richard Dreyfuss in Baltimore in the 50s and 60s. One of my all-time favorite movies, Say Anything, that starred John Cusack, about Lloyd Dobler. You know, this guy who didn't know what he wanted to do with his life and was hanging out with Ione Skye, who was the valedictorian of his high school, and she was going to be a fellow scholarship in England and all this kind of stuff. He was also in one of the great baseball movies of all time, 8 Men Out.
Yes, he was.
He was the manager of the Chicago White Sox that became the Chicago Black Sox. He actually won a Tony on stage in 1987. This guy, he was in Moonstruck, which is one of the great movies of all time, which I really loved from a certain generation. But this guy was 37 years old. He had never done anything. And he decided, you know what? I want to try this. So, kids, we're being real philosophical today. If you have something that you feel is a passion, man, strike out there and give it a shot. You never know what's going to happen. This guy was all set up. He was going to be a businessman, whatever, all this. And he decided at 37, I got to try this. And he came out and look what happened. And
worked out pretty well.
Worked out really well for him.
So, as you said, best known as Frasier's dad in Frasier. And I loved him there, the crotchety old man that he was. I dug him. And as you mentioned, so many different films as well. But that is kind of a wild thing of rarely to see somebody starting that late in life doing other things and say, I'm going to make a career shift and have it be successful like that.
And it was The House of Blue Leaves is what he won I actually saw him on stage doing that show. He did a lot of voiceover work in a lot of movies that you would never, obviously see him, but you would hear his voice in a lot of this stuff. It was just great. And it's just very cool that a guy basically in his middle age decide, you know what? What the hell? I put all my chips to the table. Let's go out there. He took a swing, and it came out to be pretty cool. So, tip of the cap, and R.I.P. John Mahoney.
Absolutely right.
But another life lesson out there, man. Just go out there. What's the worst thing that could happen?
So, if you were going to change your work now and go to something else, what would it be?
That's a great question. And I think I would like to be a marine biologist.
A what?
A marine biologist.
Really?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the ocean.
Really?
The ocean, we know so little about what's down there. It's amazing. The deepest depths of the ocean are, 10 times deeper than anything or any tall mountain. I mean, it's just, there's so much down there that we don't know.
You're really deep this morning.
I am. It's maybe because I'm going on vacation.
Maybe. You're really getting
You don't like this kind of me, do you? Give me the superficial idiot is basically what he's saying.
What do I want to do if I'm going to flip houses?
Yeah, well, you want to do that?
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
I want to flip. I want to be big on demo day. I want to bring in the heavy machinery and knock stuff down.
You just want to swing the hammer.
Pretty much.
There you go.
You
don't want to build anything. You just want to build it. You want to tear it down.
Well, before you build it up, you got to break it down.
So you're the tear down guy. You're the tear down guy.
Yeah.
I think the ocean's fascinating.
You have a ball in it.
I'm just not smart enough to do. You know what? I'm going to be in the ocean. I'll be in your shark cage with you. We're coming back.